All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? And one of the things I want to address today is people's moral values. I actually just saw a study on this. I watched a video on it, which was quite interesting, and I want to do a podcast regarding this because I think it touched on something that I actually teach even in my Mastering Self-Confidence program regarding values. I'm always speaking of telling people that want to find, a companion, a woman to date, to get engaged to get married. This is for men or just people in general. I really believe a lot of times you have to find people that you have the same core values, or things really are. It's hard to line things up, I guess you could say. But then again, that doesn't mean I'm telling you have to have all these things in common. What I'm saying is from the true value of what you believe and how you believe you should treat people and how you should be treated is really what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about when you say I have certain values, you have to line up perfectly: political, religious, ethnic, all these things. But in this case, I saw this study. It was quite interesting where they did a shoot for a commercial. It was a setup, and what they did is they took people and they trashed the place, and they brought actors in, and before they shot, you could tell it was screwed up. They said, "Hey, would you mind us helping clean up? We didn't realize this would happen," and seeing if the actors would help. And most of them did because they knew other people in the industry were there. So they knew there was, a cameraman there, a producer, and all these people. And almost everybody, it seemed like they would immediately help. And then after they did the shoot, they paid him in cash, and they said, "Hold on, we need to have you fill out some paperwork. Can you wait in another tent?" And they made sure they paid him in small bills, ones and fives, I guess, 10 and 20 or whatever the case may be. And while they waited, they had a homeless actor kind of come in and beg for money. So it was kind of like they wanted to see if they did one good deed, if they would do it, and they did it. And then obviously something privately they didn't know about. They were being filmed as well. And what was quite interesting is the way things turned out. So like I said, most of the people cleaned up and helped. And then when it came to the homeless person, and they had singles on them, most of the people, or a lot of them, lied. They said they didn't have any money on them. They couldn't help them. They only had 20s, whatever the case may be. And then on the other hand, there were a couple people who said they would help and clean, and they were videotaping themselves, where they were kind of working, or they weren't working that hard, or they were kind of manipulating it, making it look like they were doing more than they were. They were shooting themselves on live on Facebook or something. And then when the homeless man came to pursue them, they would give them money, which kind of, the video was really about balancing kind of our values there a little bit, right? And what I find quite interesting personally is I do think a lot of times we want to help, right? And I don't mean just people. I mean, a lot of times we want to do good, but sometimes the truth is if there's no one else around to see that we're doing good, a lot of times we won't go out of our way, or we just don't do it. I really believe that. And it's not because we're lazy. We may be too busy, or we're just not interested. But when we're around people, a lot of times, again, I think we are always, not always, but we are way more willing to help or show that we will help, even if there's nothing that's hugely beneficial. And I don't want to say that's pretending, but I do think our values, a lot of times, when you look at them privately and publicly, are, really much different, I think, and a lot of us don't want to admit that. And I'm not telling anybody also, too, when you're walking around, that you have to continuously give money to homeless people to make you feel good or bad or whatever the case may be, because I think we've all been in positions where it's been overwhelming in a lot of major cities, and when I hit places especially like San Francisco, LA, parts of Chicago, New York, there's tons of homeless, and I try to give money. But I remember one time I was in LA going to this big event it was a really nice size, beautiful event downtown LA I got invited to. And I do remember somebody was asking me, would you like to be famous and all this? You know, they were doing all these interviews and stuff. And I said, yeah, of course. You know, I wouldn't mind being famous at that time. And I was just being honest. They're like, really? I can't believe that. And he says, why? And I said, well, I'd like to help people with my fame probably more than anything else. Not just be famous for the reason of just being famous. So everyone caters to me. And they were kind of shocked at that answer. And it was almost weird because a homeless man did legitimately walk up to me. And he said, and I turned around and he said, hey, does anybody have money? And I said, no one answered him. I said, hold on, I think I do have a 5. Wait a minute. And I pulled out a 5. And they walked and he said, thank you so much. And nobody else really had any cash on them or gave him any money. And I understand that, again, people sometimes get exhausted from people always asking for money. And they all started to crack up and laugh kind of, and I was kind of dumbfounded, like, Rich, thank God you gave him money after making the comment you just made, because everybody would have looked at you like a total asshole. And I didn't even look at it from that perspective. But I could see that. I could see like somebody saying, I could have seen myself even maybe saying something like that subconsciously and then not doing anything about it. Does that make me want me to, do I want to feel better in front of my friends because I gave money and someone didn't? No, because, and do I judge my friends for not giving money to people that are homeless? I'm just using that for an example. And I think a lot of us we're brokenhearted that there's homeless. I really believe it, and we want to help as many people as we can. We just can't. It's just the truth. But I have a friend, my buddy who's a lawyer, who used to carry all these 1s and 5s around in Chicago. You go eat, and while he walked down the street, he would just hand out money, right? And he's wealthy now, and he's just a great guy. And he would also, like, if they were sleeping, stick a 5 here or that and this. And I used to think, does he do this when I'm not here? And you know what the answer is? I'm pretty sure it is, because we would sometimes separate in the city because I was helping him at his law firm at different times. And I would just see him walking and do that. I'm like, who does that? Right? And I knew that's one of my closest friends. I'm like, this is one of the reasons I hang out with him, because I just truly know in his heart, even being a lawyer, he always has the best interests for his clients, for me, his family, his friends. And again, I think what I'm trying to point out here is, what do you do privately? And do you kind of keep track of your good deeds and your not so good deeds? I think subconsciously a lot of times we do things, a lot of good things for people. It could be at work, friends, family members, whatever the case may be. You may be doing things online, making great comments and a lot of likes, whatever the case may be. You want to help people, make them feel good. But then again, when it comes to other things where I'm not saying you're backed in a corner, but you have a moral dilemma a little bit, like, hey man, should I not pay for, somebody just gave me extra money back, or I got away with this. I don't know what it would be. Or should I do that? I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to do it anyways, because you know what? I always do good, And again, I can get that. I can see people doing that. And I think we've all done that at times, like saying, you know what? I'm always doing this. It's about time it came my way. It's very interesting after seeing that video, how I really I'm all about exposing myself. Even on my podcast, it's not about pointing out everybody's flaws, because I think for the most part, most of us, again, depending on what country you're in, I'm from the United States, or North America, so I think a lot of us do have the best intentions for a lot of people. It's not like we were raised to be terrorists, or we were raised on hatred, or raised on war. We live in a free country, which is amazing. And I think we are always, for the most part, surrounded by a lot of different types of people. Even though I grew up right on a suburb, or basically I would bounce between Chicago and the suburbs of Chicago, there were still so many different ethnic groups I was around, right? So, and we can all use an excuse like racism or this or that. We kind of bunch everybody into a group. But I always say it is impossible, I think, in our country to really, truly kind of be racist. I know that may sound crazy, but back to everybody helping one another. If I'm going to leave my house today, for instance, I have to get a new tripod. I have to go to a store. I'll just use, for example, my plan today. I can assure you, I don't know who, I don't know who works there. I was there a while ago. I don't know if he's black, white, Hispanic, whatever the case may be. Then I got to get gas today, okay? And if I pay inside, I may or use my credit card. It depends on what area I'm in. I'm going to go inside. Someone's going to help me. I don't know if that's going to be black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever the case may be. They're going to help me. I'm going to probably go eat somewhere. I'm not going to go to my friend's Italian restaurant today because they're closed. But I may meet my friends to eat. I also may end up at a Starbucks. Again, they're going to make coffee for me. How wonderful is that? I just had an oil change, so I was thinking I had to get that. So when I got my oil changed not too long ago, again, my point being is, I know a lot of them people are getting paid to, give me service. But a lot of times they are giving me the best service they can. And a lot of times it's not for a lot of money. Same with me. When I go out and travel all over and do what I do, or even my podcast, I'm not looking at hitting for me. It's more male-driven, I'd say, just because my program, Mastering Self-Confidence, to help men master their self-confidence. But I want to relate to everyone to a certain degree. And again, I think we all, at least in America, live in a society where if you're a teacher, how many students do you have? They're all different types of people, and we really do want to help one another. But I also do think behind closed doors a lot of times, especially in relationships, for some reason, I think there's a lot of deceitfulness. I talk about that in my program, that in relationships, there's cheating involved, there's lying involved. I just think we take who we're with a lot of times for granted, or we just get sick of doing the same thing over and over again as well. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, I believe, because I think tons of people who've been in relationships, I talk about this, have cheated or have been cheated on, obviously have been lied to, manipulated, all these things. And I think in different times of our lives, a lot of people have done things that they regret, right? Which is just society on a whole. If you didn't make a lot of mistakes, you definitely wouldn't want to, what I'm saying is, if you didn't make a lot of mistakes in your past, you wouldn't be evolving. And no one is perfect. I don't care who you are. So the point of this is really, I'm not telling you to keep a moral compass on what you're doing, but maybe subconsciously I think a lot of us do good, which kind of gives us a pass to once in a while do bad, which if you choose to do that, that's fine, because I don't think anyone, again, if you think you're going to walk around and never sin, for the most part, you're out of your mind, or you're never going to lie again. And I don't like lying myself, really at all, but sometimes I don't know, maybe I get caught in a bullshit move, or I do things where I may exaggerate, I guess. But there's a fine line between lying to somebody to manipulate them or exaggerating or trying to do something, I think, more or less for fun. But I'm on the other end of this, I sometimes am too blunt, where I come off like I don't give an F, where sometimes maybe I could be a little softer, especially even at work or dealing with my daughters or with who I'm dating, or who I live with, actually, Rhea, who I'm with, and even her kids, because I'm really no nonsense. And I think sometimes I got to look at myself and be like, what is, just because you value something very strong or you think you can act a certain way, you may be coming off offensive. And I know that's not maybe a moral type or a value type issue. But again, if I am hurting someone's feelings, or I'm installing fear, or and I don't give an F attitude, what kind of, I don't want someone to basically, I actually don't mind that. I can't say I like the bluntness, but if I know I'm kind of, not saying, again, hurting someone's feelings, I just want to make sure that they're comfortable, I guess, when they're around me more than anything else. And they know I have their best interest, even though sometimes I'm disagreeing with them. All right, I'm going to leave that at that. If you get a chance, you can check out my YouTube channel. Lately, I've been putting up a lot of videos, visiting all different gyms in North America, mainly LA Fitness. I put up also videos of my favorite Italian restaurants, coffee houses, videos regarding my Mastering Self-Confidence program. And if you want to learn more about this stuff, all you got to do is go to masteringselfconfidence.com or my website, richcelenza.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and where else? LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. So, all right, take care. And again, if you're out there, try to be nice once in a while. Don't get too nuts. In my film, My first film I did, I had a homeless guy come up to me because I was carrying a bunch of cash. And I remember he came up and I shoved him. I paid him to do this scene, this guy. And it was a black guy, and it was not even about race, but it was like in Chicago, and was I in the south side of Chicago? I wanted to make it look realistic. And it wasn't that I was shoving him because of race, it was because I was carrying a lot of money. But at the beginning of the movie, I look back and go, that's the type of image I want of this person, where you're thinking he's carrying a lot of money, which is, is when he shoves this guy, is he an asshole because he's asking him for money, or is he being protective of his money and protecting himself? So it's interesting that was literally one of the first scenes in my movie that I did, and then now I'm doing a podcast 20 years later on that subject, because when you open a movie and you start developing characters, you're like, every scene means something. And I wanted to right off the bat kind of confuse people, but I wanted people to think if they were in that situation, what would they do? Because you don't know if that person's going to come up and rob you. You don't know if that person's going to come up and ask you for money. So just interesting. All right, take care. And if you're traveling, safe travels.